Um, when Rebecca asked me to, if I'd be interested, because when we were training, I had a lot of solutions or suggestions during all the training sessions we had, and she picked up that I was rather technically savvy. And that's because, you know, even before the pandemic, most schools were using Google Classroom and all the other Google products for school. And then Google Meet just made it a lot more interesting. And then we had to teach remotely, so we had to learn even more tools and more ways to engage the students. So I have a lot of that good background knowledge. When she asked me also about the shortcuts, I thought about, I've been in the district for 20 years now, I've been teaching, and I thought about how many students who have come through the school district whose parents have limited English skills, and how hard it was for them to become involved in their child's education, even how to communicate better with them. And I still have a handful of students where it's really hard for me to get a parent to, you know, address some of the concerns that I have with their child as a student. And a lot of times it makes it very difficult for the child themselves, because I will have to say, you know, say the person's name is Julio. And I'm going to say, Julio, tell your mom you're not doing this. And I have to trust that he is telling his mom in his native language that he's kind of screwing things up. Usually I can tell they're telling the truth because the face changes, like the mom gets really mad, or there might be a little whack to the right, but that's very difficult. So this presentation is really about how to, even if you can glean, pick out one thing that will make life easier. And for any situation, just having Google tool knowledge in general is a good thing. It's just it's a helpful and free resource. And I've had no problems with Google as far as my personal information, as far as sending me junk mail. I really appreciate their privacy. I have to switch over to a different tab, so I will not be able to see any of your comments, but I'm hoping that somebody, like Rebecca will say, Janet, somebody just dropped you a chat, and then I'll switch over to the other screen. So I'm going to present this. So basically, the whole point of it is to help your children succeed in school. And this can be good for anybody, even if, like I said before, your children are, and yourselves are, you know, rather proficient at English. So I think what a lot of people don't understand is that in the United States, it's compulsory, it's mandatory for children to attend high school all the way up to, for most states, until they're 18 years old. The way that gets paid for is our taxes. And if you're paying for it, you might as well use it. All states require children to attend school. That is up until they're seniors. Technically, that's 17, 18 years old. And even though there's a lot of problems, the United States prides itself with free public education for all children. And that even means children with disabilities ranging from minimal disabilities to major disabilities. And that is something that I would say we do well as a nation.
I'm sorry, are you sharing your screen yet? We can't see anything.
Oh, I was. Let me try it again. Share screen. Entire screen. I will try this again. Share. And hopefully that worked. Tell me now, did that work?
It looks good.
Okay, so I will go back to this one really quickly, hit present. That was my title. That's what I just told you. And this is where I was. I know just from conversations, different cultures, different countries, once the child is sent to school, it is up to the teacher to do the disciplining, to do the education. And yes, parents are interested in having their children be educated, but the United States, parents are expected to be involved in their children's education in many different levels. Involvement can include just going to meetings. It can include checking grades. It includes responding to emails. And when you do respond to your child's teacher, and you have some kind of involvement, not only with the teacher, but also in school or just with your child itself, your children will have higher test scores, overall standardized tests. They get good grades. They behave better in school. They make better connections with friends, with stronger social skills, and easier transitions. That means when they have to go from place to place in their lives, and they know their parent has an eye out on their education as they're moving from one grade to the next or from one school to the next, it makes children more accountable. Students are more successful when parents talk to their child's teacher. And not just when the teacher reaches out to you. I think one of the things that happens is sometimes parents don't reach out to the teachers. And what we mean by involvement is it's two ways. Yes, I can reach out every time a child has a problem, but the expectation is also, if you see that your child is struggling with something, it's also up to the parent to get a hold of me to say, yo, what's going on here? I need some help. So it works both ways. The best way to build a relationship with the teacher is try to attend school meetings and activities, even if it's just a day where you come in to make, I know the elementary classes do a lot of like making things. I don't know, they make these little things. I haven't been in an elementary classroom in a long time. So if you're invited to book reading day, that's a good idea. If you're invited to an afternoon of poetry reading, that's a good idea. So whenever you're invited to something, just to be present, you don't even have to sometimes participate. Those activities are very, very useful. The best thing you can do is answer a teacher email. If a teacher sends an email and they send another email and they send an other email, a lot of times teachers will think that the parent just doesn't care, which might not be the case. The case could be the parent doesn't know how to read the email or doesn't know how to respond to the email, or I think also just that the expectation is just simply to say thank you. I had a student a couple years ago that I kept sending emails, so-and-so needs help, so-and-so needs help. And the parent knew that, and the parent apparently was helping their child at home. But I had no idea that that particular parent was intervening, interacting with their child, because I never got a reply. And eventually I wrote a little bit of a strongly worded letter. And that parent got back to me then saying, I have been helping my child. Well, I didn't know that because you did not respond to me. So answering teacher emails, just even if it's a simple thank you, is really good. Same thing with text. A lot of teachers text. I personally do not. But even if they text you, a simple thank you. A thumbs up sometimes is all you need. Just some kind of acknowledgement that you received the message. And from my point of view, the most important thing any parent can do is attend back to school night and conferences. Back to school night is important because you get to see what the physical environment looks like, what the classroom looks like, so you know where your child is all day long. That's important for the kid to know. Back to school night, you get to see the demeanor of the teacher. Does the teacher look nice and friendly? Is the teacher a little bit more stern? And that way, if you have your adult impression of the teacher, and your kid comes home and says, so-and-so is so mean, every day they're yelling, and you know this person you met doesn't seem like a yeller, you can help your child solve those problems because you have an idea of what the classroom itself is like. And also conferences. I know a lot of parents who have limited English do not like conferences. Usually some kind of an interpreter can be offered if that's an issue. And now with so much technology, I had a parent recently was It was a virtual conference, and they had their closed captions on. And when I was speaking, it translated into their native language. And then they spoke their native language, and it translated back to, English to me. So nowadays, it's really important to form some kind of a communication, even if it's not like 100% on both sides. And that never really happens, no matter what language you speak. There's always some kind of communication issues. I think this is also very important. The easiest way to show children the importance of education is by asking questions. And if you ask your kid, what did you do in school today? The answer is always, I don't know, nothing. Like, they didn't do nothing all day. We work really hard. Nothing is a bad answer. So in order to ask, to be a little bit more specific, like not what did you do in school today? What did you learn in math today? And when you ask the kids what they learned and you ask for a particular subject, it forces the kid to answer the question. So if they said they didn't learn anything in math, maybe that is true. Maybe the teacher had a bad day and they let them play games all day. And you go, okay, well, what did you learn in science class? If you get a bunch of nothings, you know that it's a lot of things that they're either not paying attention in class, and if it's repetitive, they're not paying attention in class, or perhaps they don't understand what they are actually learning. And when you put it that way, you get a better idea of what your children are indeed learning. So answers should be something like, I learned addition. My class today could have said, I learned how to use more sophisticated transitions for our openings. We in 8th grade, we have fancy words for everything. If they're younger children, you can ask them to read a passage from any book they're reading. Most students have a Reader's Workshop book or a Stop, Drop, and Read book, some kind of independent book that they are expected to take back and forth from school to home. And it's always a book of their choice. And you could say, why don't you just read me a page from your book? And, if you hear the same page over and over and over again, you can see that they're not really making a lot of progress. Also, show me what you wrote in writing class. That way, they literally have to show you what they did. And I have a student right now, I wish his parent would ask him that, because every day it would be a blank page. He has done nothing in writing class for 3 days. And if that mother would just say, yo, kid, show me what you wrote in writing class today, there would be no progress. And that's very helpful. You can literally see your child's progress in any kind of class. When you ask somebody what happened at recess, and if you start out with something funny and people know their children, go, oh, anything funny happened at recess? Maybe they'll share a funny story, and that lets you know that your kid is adjusting well. They have friends, they're playing out in the playground. But if all of a sudden your child's face takes a different turn and you're like, didn't anything funny happen? And you know your child, you can start, well, did something bad happen? And by asking about recess and gym, that is a really good time to understand how your children are doing socially in school, more than just the academics. And I think that if anything, that's more important than the academics, because if a student does not feel as if they are being successful, or they don't feel welcome, or they don't belong, the learning is twice as hard. I think that's probably the most important thing. And also to ask, when is your next social studies test? It keeps their children accountable. They should be able to give you a date, like, oh, we don't have one, or tomorrow, or next week. And it's just, even if you're not paying attention, I used to ask my kids all the time when their next tests were. I didn't remember any of the tests, but at least they thought I was paying attention, which I wasn't always. But just saying, do you have an English test coming up? Yes. And I'm like, okay, good. Are you studying? Yes. And I didn't ask what was on the test or did they need help studying. Just it kind of lets them know that you're paying attention, even if you're not really paying attention. And this is also very important. Help your child keeping track of progress. You have to understand how to find students' grades. And what I come across a lot, especially with people with limited experience in American schools, is that they don't understand Genesis. They don't know to call the office and get a parent code. Genesis is for the parents. And I would say most school districts use Genesis or a very similar grading program. Those passwords are not given to the children. The school will give the parent the code. Now, most parents give then the sign-in information to their children, because I have students checking their grades all the time. I could give them a test at 10 o'clock and they can ask me at 10:30 where their grade is. And I'm like, really? Really? So kids can have access to it, but it's really the parent's responsibility. And it's a way for parents to keep track of assignments and keep track of progress and missings. And these programs also have a place where you can, where a lot of times teachers will post little notes. Like a lot of times if the whole entire class does well, I was like, most kids did a really good job. And if you see that your kid got an F and the teacher wrote, most kids did a good job, you can ask your child, well, what were you having a hard time with? And then there's also Google Classroom. And I want to show you the difference here. Okay, I'm going to bring up an old document. None of these students really exist anymore. So this is Genesis. This is where I get my place the kids. And in here is what I see, right? So here are some reading grades. And this class is doing really well, so I didn't mind sharing all these grades, right? This kid, actually, I do have to change that. He did finish his work. You can see here's all the grades. They're doing really well, right? Doing okay. But I do have this one student. I did this on purpose. His grade is actually in right now, and I changed it to show you. Genesis shows that it's incomplete or it's missing. The child at this point didn't receive any credit. What happens sometimes is if you are in Google Classroom, let me pick a classroom, pick this one. And I have to switch this one. Whoop. I have this one student who does this all the time with his mother. So if I go here, and you don't have to understand how this works, but if I go to something that students have to do, like this one, right? It says that I graded 18 of them. There's none missing, and I obviously have one that is turned in a little late. A lot of times what a student can do is they can turn in a blank document. So the mom can see that the work's turned in, not a problem. And they see this screen and they go, okay, my kid doesn't owe any assignments. But you also have to check the other one, because this one is just where it's like handing in a paper. You could hand in a blank paper. You could say to your child could say to you, I handed in the paper. Maybe they did hand in something, but they didn't do very well. So it's really important to understand that you have to know the difference between the two, and it sometimes can be very, very overwhelming. But just knowing that those things exist should be a little bit helpful. Okay, I love this. So I want to know first, I'm going to go back to here. How many of you do not have a Google account by any chance? And I have to change my view. Is there anybody who doesn't have a Google account? You do? Good. Okay, Google accounts are the best. Good. Oh, my phone heard me say Google. it's saying the best way to get a Google account. Let me turn that down. To get a Google account, it's so easy. So you guys already have these. Wonderful. So this was like how you could sign up for one. But I love all these tools here. And you can play around with the tools. So these are all the products that Google offers. You can go to this page and you can scroll through, and it has featured products for business, retail. But when you go down here, it has all the best things for teachers. Like we use Google Classroom. You can actually ask to be a part of your child's Google Classroom to see their work. There's ways to sign up for that. It's not in the presentation, but if you're interested, I will be more than happy to show you how to do that. Maps, Chrome, and here's all their products. And I really like all their products. And when you really go through here and you read about them, you can find that there's a lot of really nice products to help you. So there's this wonderful translate tool, right? And you can put it right on your phone. And I just want to show you that it's here. And you can speak whatever language you want, and you can have it translate whatever language. And I think a lot of people are very familiar with this. I know that my students are, because when they're trying to understand something and I haven't quite made it clear what it is I'm trying to communicate, they'll use this translate tool. If you don't have it, definitely get it, and it works. And you can watch the video on your own. We're not going to sit here and watch the video for you. I just want to let you know that these are the most useful tools to help your child in school. I love the Google Calendar, right? Not only is it good for your own personal life, right? But it's also good for keeping track of your students' assignments. And if your child has a Google account, they get a Google Calendar. And if there's any posted work with due dates, your child's work will be on that Google Calendar. I can show you my calendar really quickly. I don't mind. This is my calendar. It's this month. I have, this is when I do my tutoring classes. So I call it Thursday, just to remind me I have class all the time. You can go through the months. This is going, oh, it's going the opposite way than my phone does. But if there's an assignment posted, so when I post something on Google Calendar, it automatically loads to the calendar and it doesn't go away. I love this one, Lens. I use it a lot myself. Google Lens is if you take a picture of something and it has this little feature on it where you can take a picture of something, so you can scan and it'll translate it for you back and forth based on the language that you want. And the best place to find the lens is you literally will click on this. So my husband and I sometimes fight about trees. He says, that's this kind of tree. I was like, no, it's not. This is a different kind of tree. And you can take the picture and say, for instance, you want to learn a word like, oh, what is this pretty flower? You know what it's called in your own language. You can look it up and it identifies just about anything for you. Google Lens is great. You literally open your camera, you take a picture, it says lens on it, you hit the lens, and after it comes up in English, you can translate it and you can go back and forth and learn a lot of new words. And it's pretty fascinating. I love Lens. I just wanted to draw attention. I think most people know about Google Maps, but Maps will help you locate your child's school, the doctors, and it also helps you determine, especially if you're new to an area, how long it will take you to get from point A to point B. But I think if you're not familiar with Google Maps, please get familiar with Google Maps. And all this is available on your phone, if you have Google on your phone. I really like Notepad. It's just like a sticky note for your phone. I have one and I put little pictures on it so you can keep track. I used to do it on paper, but if I knew my son had an assignment, I would have Sam's assignments written down, and then Allison's, and then Emma's, and then also what I had to get at the supermarket, what did I have to do for my mom, And I think Google Notes is a great place because it doesn't matter what language you write it in, but it's all right there on your phone. Or the great thing about Google Notes is if you have a conference or a phone call with a teacher, you can make those little note cards and, you know, talk to the teacher as you're looking at your phone and make sure that you have everything that you want to ask. Is because I know a lot of people, I know I get like confused. You thought, oh, I forgot to ask that question. If I had just written it down. Well, if you have this on your phone or your device, and you can write them down ahead of time, and it's great, especially if you want to ask your the teacher a lot of questions. And I just included this one also. It says help your family create healthy digital habits. I think this is just important no matter what language you speak. I want to let you know that you have control over what your children see in a Google account. You can turn things off. You can tell them how long they can be on the phone. You can lock things. You can unlock things. You can see how long they've spent on something. I had a student recently, and the mom says, well, how am I supposed to know how long my kids spent on the game? And really, I want to go, really? You have no idea what your kid's doing? But instead, I said, well, you know, on Google, with their account, you can go to internet safety, and you can see how long they spent on there, and you can use it. And they had no idea that they could just turn things off. So I think that's a really, really important tool to note. Now we're going to actually start doing something. I know I've been talking for a long time. Thank you very much. Okay, next one. Okay, how to create a bookmark. I'm surprised at how many people don't know how to create bookmarks, and there's all these different bookmarks you can create. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Whoop, I went backwards by accident. Okay, so I'm going to hit escape. So say, for instance, my kid goes to, these up here, where my cursor is, these are all bookmarks. So I don't have to keep going and typing things in. So this is where my school district is. So if I want to go to my district, it's right there. This is where I teach. That is a great bookmark to have. Here's my Gmail account. It just opens up to whichever one I'm logged on to. So here's the one for the event right now. This is my Drive. Oh, YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube. I don't know what went wrong, but the way to create a bookmark, if you haven't already done so. So say I wanted to go to Food Network. Right? I really like Food Network, right? And I seem to be going to Food Network all the time. I'm tired of looking at Food Network. I'm tired. I just want to know the recipes. You get to the recipes. And the way to do that, to create a bookmark, is is just to hit this star. Bookmark this tab. It says right there, bing, it's done. Now, I don't like a lot of words. You can call it a name, but I just get rid of the words and I hit done. I have a lot of bookmarks, so it's over here. And right there, there's my bookmark. There is my Food Network one. This is a site that I use in class. This is just bookmarks for everything. So if your child has a classroom, this is what these are. These are all the classrooms that I teach. Obviously, I don't have access to them right now because I'm in a different account. I will change that. I have lots of accounts, as you can see. It's bookmarked. I don't have to type in Google Classroom O period. I have a bookmark. It's already up there. And bookmarks are great. So the best thing to do is, this is bookmarking a class. This would be bookmarking the school. Another thing you can obviously bookmark is a teacher's email. If you write them all the time, you can definitely bookmark that. And you can also make some folders. So as you can see here, mine are getting really, really long. So I could create a folder. And other bookmarks, where is it? Oh, you go here, sorry. You go to bookmarks and you can see I have a lot of them and you can, so this one's really sensitive, this computer. Evesham bookmarks, other bookmarks down here is probably create a bookmark. Wait, why is it not letting me create a bookmark? I am so sorry. I do this all the time. Add folder. There we go. I added folder. I can call it, I don't know, recipes. And I saved it. And that way, whenever I have a recipe, I can just put it in that folder. So it's very much like, you know, all the stuff that we do with paper, it's just more digital. And I know this is going a little bit fast. You can always watch this. This is why this is being recorded, so that if you're like, wow, I really liked what Janet showed us, she was going so fast, you can go back and watch this as many times as you want. And, you know, that's why we're doing the how to. Okay. Trick number one, this is a good one. Taking a screenshot. This is important because maybe if you're trying to communicate something with a teacher and you're saying, well, I can see something. I can see that my child did the work. And you're like, no, they didn't. And they're like, yes, they did. You can take a screenshot. You can take a screenshot of anything. So if I open up a document, I'm just going to open up any random document that belongs to me. Okay, I have my lesson plans here. Okay, so here's some work I'm working with the kids, right? And say the teacher said they didn't finish this project. You could say, yes, they did. And you can take a screenshot of this to prove, like, look, this is what I am looking at. And then you can send it. So the way to take the screenshot is, let me present this again so it's a little bit bigger. You hit the control button. And you hit this thing, and I always forget what this thing is called. I just know it's like, it looks like that on the Chromebook. And when you hit that, it takes an exact picture of what you're looking at and it saves it. This is actually a screenshot of a screenshot. Like I took this picture on my computer and I put it in there. This particular computer I'm working with right now doesn't quite have the same layout, so I'm not really sure how to take a screenshot on this one, but this is how basically you can do it on a Chromebook. Once you have that screenshot, you just hit save, and it saves, and then you can send it to a teacher if you're trying to do stuff. That's a good way to do that one. The next thing that we have is that's a full screenshot. A lot of times you don't want the whole entire page. You just want to take a look at a partial screenshot. You just want half the page. So if I went back to this document that I'm working on right here, and I didn't want the whole entire page, I could hit Shift, Control, and I am going to try this one because this is a different computer for me. That's not it. I'm sorry about this. I thought this Chromebook was the same as the other ones, and that's not it. And I do apologize. That should have worked a lot more efficiently, but apparently this new Chromebook that they just gave me the other day does not have the magic button that I thought it would. And I am looking for it. I just can't find it. But again, the reason for a partial screenshot is you can just kind of drag and drop what you want. Just take a picture of just what you want. What happens a lot with that is sometimes you get to a site that has too many commercials in it, which one has encyclopedia.com. You can tell I can't type. And if you wanted to, a lot of the places have, they have a lot of ads, right? And you don't want the ads. Like you don't want this annuities in here. You don't want to send the teacher the annuities. you just want to show them this particular portion, you can take a screenshot of that. And I do have a link on how to do that. It's just not cooperating with me right now. And I'll make sure that that's a lot clearer for that particular one. I do apologize. Again, this Chromebook has different buttons and I can't figure out which one I'm supposed to hit. Okay, next one, that's a nice trick. If you want to, again, to take a picture of something to prove to the teacher or to communicate, this is what I'm seeing. What are you seeing differently? Because pictures, especially if English is a language that you have a hard time communicating with, at least you have a screenshot. You have a picture where you can say, look, this is what I see. And they can communicate and go, oh, I see what you're seeing. This is what we're supposed to be doing. And that happens a lot. I love this little camera tool here, okay? The camera, I'm going to show you how that works. Camera's easy. If you go, of course, I have a new computer. If you go, you can go here, or you can drag it up and you can find a camera. It will take a picture. So right now, it would take a picture of me, or you can turn it around. And this won't let me because I'm already using my camera. And you can use the laptop as a camera. That is a horrible view, so we're not going to be looking at that anymore. And on the Chromebook, the camera is right here. You'll see this little blue camera. And I actually took a picture of this particular screen. And it's a great thing because if you don't know how to do the screenshot or you want to take a picture, I don't think a lot of people realize that a Chromebook actually has a camera and a video camera on it. And the best way to find that is right there. It looks like a camera. So Chromebooks, your kids have them. You can say, take a picture, and they can like, Mom, I can't, my phone's broken, or no, I can't do that. You can say, yes, you can. It's on your Chromebook. You have a camera. And again, having that camera, being able to take pictures and help with communication is very, very valuable. I find that when parents communicate with me through pictures, it's a lot easier. Okay. These are things called Slide Translator and Google Doc Help. Okay. So I'm going to click on here. So here's a slide. This is a Google slide. And a lot of times your children will have to do an assignment on Google Slides, and you might want to be able to help them. And it shows you exactly what to do. Not only this slide, but I'm going to show you. So it says to click on add-ons. That's right here. Then it says to get add-ons. And it tells you all the things you can get. Like, oh, wow, I think that would be really nice. Oh, I need this. And it helps you kind of figure out what you want to do. Let me find one. Slide Translator. It's already installed. Okay, I'm going to uninstall it so I can show you how to install it again. I didn't think of that when I did this, that I would actually have to uninstall. So I want Slide Translator because I need help helping my child understand what the science project is. But my English is not too good, and especially with science. So you really want to be able to help them. The first thing it asks you to do is choose an account. So I'm going to pick this account. And then it asks if it can see everything in the whole entire world. Don't read these because you would never hit yes. You would never hit allow. You have to hit allow. If you don't hit allow, guess what? You're not going to get the help. I have to trust that it's going to work. Okay, now it's been installed and it's done. Okay. What I love about this tool is then what you can do is you can have a translator. So now that I have it, I can have Slide Translator. And it says translate a text box. So say, for instance, in the right here, it says translate selected text box into Arabic. So if you need these directions into Arabic, I would do that. I would highlight it. I would translate it. And there's everything in Arabic. And then you can help your child understand what it is the teacher's looking for. If you don't speak Arabic, you speak French. It translates into French. I love this. So for instance, you might have some science background in your native language, and the task is to do a little slide presentation on cells and mitochondria and all the different parts of a cell. You know the names of all those things in your native language, but you don't know them in your English language. This is great. It's a great tool. I played around with. I love that it changes the actual, not only the words, but like I look at that, right, and it's those things right there that make me realize just how important communication is. If I had to communicate with my child's teacher and I was moving from America to India, I don't even, first of all, they're even completely different characters. I can't imagine how frustrating it would be to just follow this information here in a language that doesn't even share the same alphabet. So I love this tool. I absolutely love this tool. And I know it's been very helpful for a lot of parents. The other one we have is some stuff on Google Docs. And again, this is all a useful drop down is tools. Okay, this one's great. I wish more of my students would use this. Spelling and grammar. This means to check the actual document at the time. My document is perfect right now. It says it looks good. Okay, I'm great. But if I turn this on, tools, spelling and grammar, oops, sorry. Move a little slower. If I have this off, right, I'm going to turn that one off for right now. And I'm going to turn this one off, right? I'm going to type bad on purpose. Okay, that's supposed to say, this is not good writing. I have too many mistakes. Well, I could have caught my mistakes as I went along, because if I had show spelling suggestions, wow, those are all the spelling mistakes I made. And also, if I had show grammar suggestions, they're in blue. Wow, look at all these mistakes I made. So then you can just, this is, they're going to tell you the right not, hopefully, good writing. I have too many mistakes. Now, the problem with this one is it doesn't catch everything. You have to be careful, because this one should be this too. But at least you've really cut back on the amount of mistakes you have written in a piece of paper. And this Google tool thing is an amazing tool. I just suggest that you always have it on. I have it on all the time, even when I do type, because I'm the world's worst typer. Like if I was just to type a sentence right now, hello everyone, how are you? Let me see how I did. No, I did terrible. I cannot type to save my life. So that's not even the word I want. At least it shows me I don't know how to type. So this is a great tool. It really helps with communication. Not to mention, this also has its own translate. So you could type in your own language, right? You can get an add-on for here. You can get a, actually, I think it has translate in here. Hold on a minute. That's why I didn't add it. Tools, translate document, choose a language. I'm going to pick, I don't even know what that is, Amharic. And there you go. That would be the language. And then if you were to write this way, right, it's like, okay, you wrote in your native language. You want to make sure it looks good. That's your native language. You can go to tools. You can go to translate document. You just written in your own language. You would then have to go to English. You're going to translate your native language into English. And there you go. That's how that works. It's such a great tool. And remember, when you're trying to communicate with a teacher, they're not looking for perfection. You know, we're human beings. We understand what's going on. We're not grading you. What we're looking for is some kind of communication. And just like we can read through words that might, like I have many mistakes. So even if you were to type this, I wouldn't judge you by saying, oh, look, they have the wrong 2 in there. I'm like, okay, I can kind of understand what you're asking me, and you can start the communication process this way. This is my favorite tool. And like I said, I wish more of my kids would just use this in general. Okay. Then we're off to language resources. You can get getting a library card. The libraries are amazing. They're just not a place where you get books. There's this book called The Library Book, and it's about how the Los Angeles library burnt down like 20 years ago. And I thought I knew a lot about libraries, but I didn't. So if you can use, Rebecca, I didn't know this myself. Always get a library card. Just get a library card. All you need is some form of identification that shows you live somewhere. Doesn't even have to be a driver's license. It could be an electric bill, your phone bill, anything with your name and the address of the county in which you live. You go, they give you a library card. It's done. And then you have access to not only the actual building, but tons of online resources. So for instance, I picked this one. I picked the Burlington County Library because I live in the county, and all these wonderful things they can teach you. It's like, do you want to find a book? They have audio books. They have using the library. They have all of these things that you can use with the library. And you can go get a pass to a museum for free. That doesn't take any language to, you go and look at pretty paintings. The notary service, especially if you want something like stamped that shows it's valid. They have all your local locations, e-learning and research. I love this stuff in here. Support, and then other things, and apply for cards. You don't even have to go to the library to apply for a card. Right. Well, this Proficiency must provide it within days of receiving a card. You don't even need to prove you live there. You have 2 months to finally get there. And so it's so easy to get a library card. And what Rebecca showed me was all libraries have access to Rosetta Stone. And Rosetta Stone is a learning tool that helps you. Rosetta Stone offers a proven immersion method for learning foreign languages. And it tells you all the languages that are available. You can go to their database. Say, for instance, I wanted to learn some Spanish. And you can tell, again, I have a lot of accounts. And they just tell you that you want a lot of stuff, and then you say yes, 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 you continue, and you can get the Rosetta Stone. I think that's great. And I don't know why this one's not working, the Mango languages. Hold on a minute. I'm sorry, Rebecca. That one's not working. MangoLanguages.com. Oh, look, it even has a little phone thing. Language is an adventure. I accept. And it looks like, Rebecca, you have to kind of pay for this, or will it be free through like a library?
Some libraries have this available for free. If they don't have Mango languages, they definitely have Rosetta Stone, and they also might have, there's another language learning app that other libraries also include on their web pages.
Right. Like I happen to know this is just happens to be German down here because I speak it. Das Wetter ist gut heute. You know, the weather is good today, and they have all their nouns are capitalized. So I happen to understand that one. I love how there's colors here. I'm actually very interested in this for myself. So I'm going to have to check it out. Check it out. That's going to be a good thing. And then the last slide I have is just some resources. I'm not going to click on every single one. I mean, go through everyone, but I do want to click on every single one. This is about internet safety again. I can't express enough. If your child is online, you have got to pay attention. You have got to pay attention. There's so many cases like the counselor or the vice principal will come to us and they close the door. And they tell us these heartbreaking stories. And you know, I've been in this district for 20 years in Evesham, and I know it doesn't matter if it's a good parent or not a good parent. That doesn't make a difference. But, you know, these kids get sucked into things no matter what kind of parenting skills the parents have, the neglectful parents, the overly, you know, involved parents, and kids get sucked into this. And I just, if anything, translate this page and please read it. It's so, so important for your kids to be safe online. This is about helping your child learn English. There's a lot of good resources here. Parents helping their ESL children learn English is a multifaceted process. Small steps combined to create an eager and capable student. I've looked through this and I really found a lot of this really good. Some of it's just like common sense, like make sure your kid goes to bed, how to communicate with teachers. It has a lot of advertisements, which is what annoys me, but I know it just says read regularly. There's just a lot of good information on this site for you. Reading tips, I love reading tips. This is also how reading tips for parents in multiple languages. So reading tips in other languages, and then you pick whatever you want. So I'm going to pick Korean because I haven't looked at that one yet. And I don't know what that says, but obviously those are some reading tips for people who understand Korean. Great, great, great site. And I think even for those of us who are just tutors and we're trying to get our, I know I've given this to my students in the tutoring class, the adult class, to tell them like a good way to practice English is to read a child's book to your child in English. And there's a lot of great sites for this. Not to mention this gives them a lot of hints. And I didn't know this existed. I love this site. You need some, this is from the United States. Okay, like this is a big thing, right? And it's the limitedenglishproficiency.gov. I believe it's come back just recently, and it will read it to you in any language you want. I don't even know what some of these languages are. I think it's amazing. You can click on anything. It gives you all this stuff about the state courts, about how to find interpreters and interpretation. There's these I Speak cards and English posters, and they're just, I don't know, translation guides. There's just so much information on here. I was so excited. I went down one of those internet rabbit holes, you know, where you click and you click and you click and you click. And I just kept clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking. And I forgot what I was doing. Like I completely forgot, like what was the purpose of me being here? Oh, that's right. I'm supposed to make a slideshow for Rebecca. And I just kept going and going and going. So like I said, I feel like I've done a lot of talking, but I am glad that this is being recorded. You have an idea of how it works and what's involved. You know, I'm going to ask you again, if you have any questions, I will go back over something. And thank you. I hope this was helpful. So I don't know. Can I answer any of your questions. Like, did this girl have to speak so long?
Hi, I have a question.
Hi, Juliana.
Nice to meet you. I am an old-fashioned mom. I prefer paper and pencil, but with my kids, I don't do that anymore. I have to know all these things, but I think with the pandemic, all these things, hybrid and schooling home, something like that, I know is new for everyone. Nobody was prepared for this. But sometimes I feel the teacher don't push a little to the kids. When I talk to the teacher, they say whatever they want to do is okay. I know my kids. I know they, for example, the teacher say one or two sentences. I say, you know, you can do 3 or 4. Do it. The teacher, it's okay. Don't push too hard. It's hard for everything. I think the level of the school is down, or I don't know if I am wrong, but it's not good because you know what your kid have to do. You know the level they have. And it's bad when I try to say, no, don't do the minimum. Do the a little more. Do the something better. And they respond me, but my teacher say it's okay. How can I fight with that? How can I manage that situation?
I always, again, my approach is it's always been that it's a cooperation, right? How old are your children?
8 and 10.
Okay, so, and they have been in American schools their whole entire education?
Yes.
So it's nothing new. So to me, you know, teachers are different. I never give them the minimum. I think it's also a teacher's approach. I don't care that there's a pandemic. I want you to do this. Now, the timeline might be different. Like today, our internet went down. I had to go in and change all the due dates. I couldn't expect the work to get done when there was no internet, you know, but I think it's, an approach that's a battle. I mean, I've had a lot of those conversations with parents over the years, and I think it's about the balance. Some parents will say that they'll tell me that, and I was like, no, I never told your kid that. So you have to, if the teacher is actually telling you that, that's my first thing. Make sure you reach out to the teacher, not to your kid. Don't trust your kid. I don't mean that meanly, but you can't trust your child to say that's all she wants. Because it's not that they're lying. Maybe that's all that they remember, or that's all they're willing to do at the time. Or sometimes they just don't want to do it. But I would actually, if you've actually had that conversation with the teacher, you're still the parent. You know what I mean? I got that all the time. Now, see, I'm not old school, but I'm firm. And I would say my daughter would, she's a nurse now. She figured it out. But I would read her stuff and it was like bare bones. And she's like, this is all I need. I said, this is terrible. My poor kids had an English teacher for a mother. I was like, no. And then she would say, Mom, can you edit this? Because she didn't know what a comma was. And I would start reading it. I'd be like, nope. And she goes, what do you mean, no? I was like, I'm not reading it. This is crap. That's actually not what I said. I'm just being really nice. I said, I'm not reading this. I said, go back and fix it. But you asked me a question. You want me to fix it? Go back and do it. So I think we lost the person.
Yeah, her internet might have just dropped out. She'll probably pop back in here and just.
I'll wait then. Is there any other question? Then I can finish my tirade after that.
We did get one in the chat box. Someone has asked, do you have any resources for helping kids with special needs?
In a foreign language, I do not. I didn't even think of that, and I do apologize for that. But I can see if I can locate something for that. As far as, I mean, there's always, if your child has a special need, the school has all those available. All schools by law have to deal with special needs. But as far as special needs and ELL, I didn't even think to. So no, my answer is no. And I think also, Pooja, what particular need are you talking about? And how old is the child?
Hi, Janet. So my son is 6. He's moved from a, specialized, like I mean, a specialized setting to a general setting. And I just started with the ESL tutoring myself, just to kind of, get some time off. But I found this session pretty useful. And he has focal epilepsy, and he also gets ELL at school. So while he's doing fine, I just wanted to see you walked us through so many resources which were really helpful. So I would be interested to know if there are any more sites to help out, especially if they have short attention spans or anything to help with the absorption now that most of the curriculum is online and it's all remote learning right now.
That is the hardest thing for kids with attention deficit. I have got to say, so when I was talking to who just accidentally disappeared. I can't remember her name. I'm sorry.
Juliana.
When I was thinking about this need, like I would never force a child who has, for instance, an attention thing to do just more. Sometimes that's all they can handle. As far as resources, again, I would probably go to the teacher, especially now. Is your son still in ELL at his school?
Yes, Janet.
And, they really should have resources. Now, I will say this. I work in Evesham. It's like the Taj Mahal. It is a wonderful, wonderful district. The teachers write the curriculum. Nobody purchases books. I get paid in the summer to sit down and think, well, what do the kids need to know? What do the kids want to read? We write our own curriculum, and that's very, very odd. So I will say in my 20 years, I don't have experience with a school that does not totally accommodate the students, but I will let you know that if your son has the IEP or your son has a 504 or both, that's a very powerful document.
Yeah.
And if something's not quite happening, you can make sure you throw like, my son has the 504 and you are not following it. So at least be aware of the power of the document. And I think another thing people don't understand is that document is dynamic. It's not like you have to wait for a year for there to be changes. You can change that document. You have to do it in writing. It's not going to happen overnight, obviously. But I would say to create not only a good rapport with the teacher, but also whatever counselor is in charge of the ELL program. And then above that person's head, which you don't really want to go to right away, because obviously nobody likes somebody going over their heads, is whoever the administrator is, the supervisor for that particular school district. And every school district has a special ed supervisor. It's just a norm. I would start with internet resources and just trying some things out for your own. Or a lot of times what I like to hear when a parent will say, Mrs. Kimenhour, I was looking online and I saw this particular program. Do you think this will help Jake? And I'm like, I don't know. I'll get back to you in a couple days and I'll look at it. Sometimes I don't think it will, or sometimes I will. Or I'll say, this is what I like about this program, Mrs. Smith. And, it's about communication, I think, is the most important part. So with the resources with special needs, always start with the school. And if they can't offer you anything, sometimes you have to be your child's advocate. My son had a learning disability, and his brain wasn't wired right. He's doing fine now. But, reading was really difficult for him, like really difficult. And it took years and years and years for us to figure out he had a tracking problem. Actually, his eyes didn't line up. I felt so bad that that took 3 years to diagnose. But part of that was me being his advocate, and it was easier for me because, I'm in the profession. But the internet is full of information. I think when you're trying to ask the teacher for something and they're not cooperating, if you just show a little bit, well, I was looking up on here, and it shows you're not just waiting for them to respond to you. You're saying, you come with a little bit of ammunition, then unfortunately the response might be a little bit different, which goes back to my first slide where parents are also expected to be a part of their child's education. And, I think being your son's advocate is really one of the best things to go. Resources on the internet, use the resources from the teacher. And if that doesn't get you anywhere, contact the supervisor at the head of the school district.
Yeah, I mean, the point of asking you is, so he's in an ELL class of about 6-7 students across kindergarten, and by God's grace, he's doing pretty fine. So he seems ahead of his class. So the kind of stuff that the teacher assigns him is quite easy. So anyways, he has attention issues, and he breezes through stuff. So I've brought it up a couple of times with his teacher that maybe he needs to be challenged more, or you need to increase his reading level so that, he can progress, or he can, basically everyone is at different levels, right? So
yes,
that's exactly what I was trying to communicate. And she's like, don't really, push him too much. And that's the kind of response that I was getting from his teacher. So I wasn't very happy with the way it's progressing.
But I would ask why then, like, rather than saying don't push him so much, then ask why. Why? Maybe there is an academic reason. Maybe they can say something to you like the brain is a sponge and he's already learned this much and anything else is just going to leak out. Why? To me, that is a great question. Just don't accept the answer. Ask for the explanation. And I think even as a parent, I think it's asking why, or, be aware of what your son's reading level is. You're like, well, he's been on this reading level 5 for like weeks now. At what point do you plan on moving him up to 6? I think it's using the language that they use in the classroom.
Yeah,
that shows them
I need to get a knack of that, because since he's in kindergarten, I'm getting, a feel of the way things work out here, and learning everything about, right from his IEP to being his advocate. Everything that you've said is bang on. Like I relate to everything that you see. It's just that maybe I'm not pushing, the next gear to, ask the right questions. So that's helpful right now.
I think also you have to trust I had a lot of conferences or emails recently that, the class is too slow. It's too this, it's too that. And for me, I give them an honest answer. I would say, well, you know what, Mrs. Smith, our internet is like down a lot of the time. I'm looking at a screen. I'm looking at students. I have 29 kids in this class. I only have so many hours in the day. That's the best I can do. And I find like if I give them that honest answer, it's at least it's not like, oh, don't push him too hard. You push him. You want to push him, then go push him. But I don't have any more time to be doing any more pushing, And I think that's why asking that why is a good reason. And again, especially with ELL, I discovered the other day, just by talking, like I was online with my student, I could just see her eyes glaze over. Like, I don't think she realized like what I could see. And I watched her do this. And I said, do you want to take a break? And she sat right up. She goes, 15 minutes? I said, yes, 15 minutes. So sometimes teachers forget either how hard things are or how simple things can be. But asking those pointed questions and being, even if you just kind of use the language in the IEP and really read it, and if you don't understand it, you should be able to find somebody to help you understand it. But with my son, he couldn't do, because of his eye tracking problem, there was this thing called lattice multiplication. I'm not even going to explain it, but it was different than the one we used. It just provided like grids and lines and diagonals, and all of a sudden he could multiply because he didn't have like all these numbers swirling around in his head. And then they would give him a test and they wouldn't give him the grid.
Oh.
And I was like, you need to give him that grid on the test. The teacher didn't want to hear that. That's more work for her. I said, well, we've already established that he can do multiplication if you give him this tool, it's not cheating. It's just a different way to write the numbers out. I said, it's not really that hard. And I said, you can't expect him to draw the box. He doesn't know how to do that. And I said, we could put it in his IEP. They're like, don't worry. I swear when I must have called, they must have had a bunch of straws. It's Mrs. Kimenhour. Who's going to get the short straw? But again, it's a little bit of practice, Pooja. It's really a lot of practice. And just getting through that first question. So when she's like, oh, you don't want to push him too hard. Say, well, why not?
Okay.
Why not? And see what the answer is.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I brought that up about 2-3 times and everything, it's the same kind of response. You worry too much, or, you think too much. And I'm like, I need to keep challenging him, and I'm, definitely I'm going to keep pushing him, right? Because I don't want him to regress. I want him actually to get out of the ELL class as soon as possible, right? So that
right.
With
What school district is it?
This is North Arlington.
Oh, that's in Virginia, right?
No, North Arlington in Bergen County.
Oh, okay. I do know where that is. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think it's like if you're interviewing somebody, and you don't have to have it ready on your tongue right away. Just say, okay, I'm not worried. First of all, that's insulting. You're worried too much. You can say, well, no, I'm not worried. I want to know why you're not asking him to read more. What is your academic purpose in not asking him to read more? How does that help him academically? And if there is an academic reason, then you'll have to respect it. If there's no academic reason, then I don't know, then you can, that's the next place where the conversation can take off from.
Yeah. I think she's based on whatever her experience has been over the past so many years with multiple kids. She feels that he might be reading, well, but at the same time, his comprehension would be not at par with what's expected. And that seemed like a good enough explanation. But at the same time, I mean, I need to keep him motivated as well. Otherwise, he wouldn't really progress on to the next level. So
what you could do is ask her what kind of comprehension questions she expects him to understand. Are they right there questions? Like there's all these different kinds of comprehension questions, like what is the boy's name?
Yeah.
And then there's the kind of comprehension question where you can say, what do you think's going to happen next? That's when that shows that true level of comprehension. Oh, I think he's going to ride his bike into the trash can. Well, why do you think that? Because he's, whatever your reason, being able to predict and infer, that's also a level of comprehension. So that could be a question. At what level of comprehension is he at? Is it just purely right there answers, or is he able to infer or predict? And, can he retell a story in the right order? I mean, those are very teachery terms, but you can also see what kind of comprehension checks they give him. You're entitled to look at what he has to complete.
Okay.
You just say, can you share his work with me, please?
Okay, sure.
That's easy. She can run it through the scanner and share it to you in an email. It shouldn't really be that hard.
Yeah. Okay. All helpful tips. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody else?
We have Juliana back.
Hi, Juliana.
If you wanted to.
I forget what we were talking about. Now you got to remind.
I think you are compliment with this response when you say, why don't push? I can tell, or I can talk respectfully with the teacher and try to say, why not? Yeah. And my other question is, how good is it to use Translate when you try to learn a second language? For example, my first language is Spanish. Yeah. What? It is good because if I use it, I can learn it so well, or I be using all the time. I don't be pushing to thinking in English because I am in classes too. How is helpful?
Helpful to you or helpful to your child?
Both, because they speak very well, but when the younger is writing, they notice that Translate put the sentences, completed the sentence for him. How is that useful for him?
To complete the sentences?
Yes.
Well, you have any grammar, it's called syntax and stuff, for instance, I happen to know that Germans put the verb at the end of a sentence. It's not like I will go walking. Well, that's in English too. They have like example, ich muss mir die Zähne putzen. I must to myself the teeth brush. Like they put the verb at the end of the sentence. So when it helps them with the writing and helping them with the reading, it's just, I think it's that repetitive practice. And I think when you read to your children, there's a lot of resources, just read a simple Dr. Seuss book. Well, maybe not Dr. Seuss because that doesn't make any sense. But if you read a simple, where you can tell it's a story, you get that learn of that flow of that language. And the more you hear the flow, the better that flow is. And it's just that repetition over and over. And a good teacher is going to be able to pick up who doesn't speak English at home. A lot of times or English is not the language spoken at home, even though the child's very smart. I can tell in the writing, a lot of time, students who speak Japanese at home, they don't use pronouns and they don't have what's called the definite article, like an A. They just leave that word out. And I'm like, wait, no, there's an A that goes in here. This is a book. They write, this is book. I'm like, no, it's a book, the book, and so you can tell that. I had a student years ago, she just flipped words around. And I said, do your parents speak a different language at home? And she says, yeah. I said, which one? She goes, Italian. She goes, how did you know that? I said, because you're always flipping words around. Like, this is not the flow, because nobody was speaking to her. My parents, her grandfather and her mom and her dad owned a pizza shop right around the street. And she was, I could tell she was a smart girl, but that reading, that writing, because she didn't have that practice at home, she still was mixing up those languages. Even though she was born here in America, English was her first language, but Italian was kind of like her second language. And even in her writing, that kind of came through. I picked that up. It's just things were reversed. So it's helpful because, communication is being understood. It's not just being understood so you can get a job. It's also when you move up further, it's being treated like you have some kind of authenticity. I always tell the kids when they're writing, you have to use better words. Otherwise, you don't sound like an authority. If you're going to write something, in the 8th grade, we teach them how to write. We're doing op-eds right now. And they have to pick a topic they're very opinionated about. And I was like, you have to have real research. Otherwise, you don't sound like you have any authority. You just can't complain. Like, I don't like homework. Homework's a waste of time. I'm like, okay, but why? Don't whine. You have to have some authority. And I think it's the same with the use of language. Unfortunately, I mean, we do get treated on the way we speak a language. And reading and writing, you just have to, it's like drill and kill over and over. It's like how 3 times 3 is 9. You don't even know what it means sometimes, 3 times 3 is 9. You might even forget it's multiplication. You forget it's math, but you know the answer because it's been in your head over and over and over again. I would say with your little one, read a lot of books in English. Like, read out loud, nice and slowly too. And with inflection, like try to read it like it's supposed to sound. And then Jeremiah said, oh no, Mom, what are we gonna do next? And I think that practice, just reading out loud to your children, you're not only looking at the writing, you're hearing the language, they're hearing the language, and they're hearing one language. And I think that makes a really big difference. I hope that answered your question.
Okay, thank you. Yes, of course.
Is there anything else?
So I'm going to put the evaluation in the chat box here. If you could click and take a moment to fill that out. This is the name of the workshop is Technology Shortcuts. And it's Janet Kimenhour is the presenter. And then once you finish that, please come back into the room and I'm going to put Janet's, a link to Janet's slides here too. So you have access to all of the resources. You can also find the resources on Whova, but I'm going to put them in here so you can just click on them immediately. So take a moment to fill out the form while I go get the other resources.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm going to make sure everybody has access to that too. I might have to change that.
So I actually downloaded it and then I put it into
Oh, okay.
Google Drive and I made a link from there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just a view only is all I'm giving.
I'm really thirsty.
I think we're good. I'm going to pause. I'm going to stop the recording.